you wasn't at your best in the match, and you see that the other player performed much better, and you kind of like can see things better. But the first moment always the worst one, because every time you compete at the tournament and you get to this last stages, you think that you're getting close to your dream, and then you lose the match and you feel like, okay, this is the end.
Aryna Sabalenka just admitted something that most of her rivals already know deep down. Going up against Jelena Ostapenko is genuinely terrifying, even if you're the best player on the planet. The world #1 battled through a brutal, high-octane clash with the Latvian at Wimbledon, grinding out a 6-4 win to punch her ticket into the round of 16. But this wasn't a routine victory. This was two of the hardest hitters in women's tennis trading haymakers for 2 straight sets, and by the end of it, Sabalenka couldn't help but be honest about how uncomfortable it felt out there. Let's talk about how this match actually played out, because it tells you everything about why Sabalenka walked away, rattled, even in victory. From the very first game, both women came out swinging, and I mean that literally. Ostapenko has built her entire career on taking the racket out of her opponent's hands, going for blistering winners from anywhere on the court, and Sabalenka is arguably the only player in the world who can match that kind of firepower shot for shot. So, this was never going to be a match of long, patient rallies. It was always going to come down to who could land the bigger punches without cracking under the pressure of their own aggression. Sabalenka drew first blood, breaking Ostapenko's serve to seize control of the opening set. Once she had that cushion, she leaned on her serve and her return game to close it out and move ahead. Then, in the second set, she looked like she was about to turn this into a comfortable afternoon, racing out to a double break advantage that seemed to put the match completely out of Ostapenko's reach. But if there's one thing we know about Jelena Ostapenko, it's that she never goes away quietly. True to form, the former French Open champion clawed her way back into the set, recovering one of those breaks and forcing Sabalenka to feel real pressure in the closing stages. It got tense enough that Ostapenko actually earned herself a match point late in the second set, a real chance to flip the entire complexion of the contest and drag this thing to a decider. Sabalenka, though, showed exactly why she's sitting at the top of the rankings. She stayed composed in that moment, fought off the pressure, and closed out the match in straight sets to advance. No third set drama, no total collapse, just enough discipline at the biggest moment to get the job done. And that's exactly why, when she sat down for her on-court interview afterward, you could still see it in her body language. The interviewer asked her directly what it's like stepping onto a court against someone who hits the ball just as hard as she does, but brings that same fiery, unpredictable energy too. Sabalenka didn't hesitate. Her answer was blunt and honest. She said, quote, "Yeah, that's scary. That's really scary." Think about that for a second. This is a 4-time Grand Slam champion. This is the #1 player in the entire world. And she's openly telling the crowd and everyone watching that facing Ostapenko genuinely unsettles her. That's not a throwaway line. That's real respect for just how dangerous Ostapenko's game is when it's clicking, and a reminder of how thin the margins are at the very top of women's tennis right now. This wasn't even a new rivalry for these two. Sunday's clash was actually the 5th time Sabalenka and Ostapenko have squared off against each other. And with this latest result, Sabalenka now holds a 4-1 edge in the head-to-head. So even with that dominant record on paper, she's still coming away from these matches saying it rattles her every time. That tells you just how volatile and explosive these encounters have consistently been. Now, with Ostapenko out of the way, Sabalenka's attention shifts immediately to her next challenge, a round of 16 showdown against Naomi Osaka. And, on paper, recent history heavily favors the Belarusian. This will actually be the 4th time the two have met so far this year, and Sabalenka has won all 3 of their previous meetings in 2026. What makes that stat even more interesting is that every single one of those 3 wins came specifically in round of 16 matches, which is exactly the stage they're about to meet on again at Wimbledon. But anyone expecting an easy night for Sabalenka needs to pump the brakes, because Osaka is not walking into this match cold. The former world number one has been putting together a genuinely impressive stretch on grass this summer, entering the second week at Wimbledon with serious momentum behind her. In fact, Osaka comes into this contest with a 7-1 record on grass this season, which is an outstanding number for a player who historically hasn't always been associated with dominating on this particular surface. So, while Sabalenka may enter as the favorite, given the head-to-head and her current form, this is far from a guaranteed win. Osaka's serve has looked sharp on grass, her confidence appears to be building with every round, and the 14th seed has shown she's capable of raising her level significantly when the stakes get higher. Sabalenka herself seems well aware of this, and by all accounts, she isn't taking her Japanese opponent lightly heading into this next round. What makes this stretch of the tournament so compelling is the contrast in style Sabalenka keeps running into. First, she had to survive the raw, chaotic power of Ostapenko, someone who can end a point in a single shot from anywhere on the court. Now she moves on to Osaka, a player with a completely different kind of danger: clean, explosive serving, flat, penetrating ground strokes, and the calm experience of someone who has already won multiple Grand Slam titles herself. If Sabalenka wants to keep marching toward another deep run at Wimbledon, she's going to need to bring the same composure she showed in those final crucial moments against Ostapenko. Because based on Osaka's grass court form this summer, this next round of 16 matchup has all the ingredients to be one of the most closely watched matches left in the draw. So the question now is simple. Can Sabalenka extend her perfect 2026 record against Osaka? Or is this the tournament where that streak finally comes to an end? We'll find out very soon, and you can bet the entire tennis world will be watching closely when these two step back out onto the court.